we go. All right, I'm done. I don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what's going on, where we're going with topics or anything at the moment. So I suppose we'll find out, hey? Um, all right, I'll see you in a little while.
Adios.
Adios. All right. Today we will continue a talk. Continue it to the talks that we did when we looked at what is a soul. And then in our previous conversation about why people do give in at times and they should continue their progress. Today we look at why some people develop and some people do not. Some people reach a plateau and then do not push past that, or they may stall in their development. And their development goes no further. As I have said, this talk will also connect to the series of talks that we did about what is a soul and why the soul is very important in the connection to realize that it is spirit. Now, the soul, as we have said, is an individual aspect of the Great Spirit. And we use the analogy that the soul is like one corner of the ocean. It believes it is separate, yet it is connected very much to the whole. Now, the soul, when it's at its depth, is very still, and here it is very close to the true nature of spirit. But on its surface, it is very pliable. So it is easily influenced, and indeed living a life, a human life, is for the purpose of influence. So the soul can be, well, almost damaged, if you like. Now, I mean damaged by pick up impurities rather than affected. And these impurities I talk about are the conditioning, let us say, of childhood, or the conditioning of beliefs of society. Conditioning that somebody does this, so somebody else does that. Therefore, my role is just this part. I am my job, etc. Now, this conditioning stays very much on the outside of the soul and is retained in memory, and because of the malleability of the soul, then it becomes part of the soul's essence. And as an individual, you may describe yourself or see yourself, for example, as job or a particular other thing. Now, this conditioning is an inherent belief. It is not the soul, but the soul attaches to it. And it may attach to it for just a short period of time or all of those 80 years of life. And over the life, it gains more and more conditioning, particularly in the first 40 years or so. Now, that conditioning can be light or it can be very deep. So here, then, you may change conditioning into what you could say as values and beliefs. Now, the soul is also pliable, let us say, on the inside. It is affected by the circumstances within it. And here it uses the qualities of spirit. So the qualities, let us just use the phrase of love. The soul picks up and uses the unconditional nature of love, and because of its beliefs, makes it conditional. So unconditional is you love everybody, but the conditions or beliefs that it is gained meant that love is then tainted in its expression. Of course, it could also be different knowledges and other things apart from love. Now, the attempt is for the qualities of spirit to come purely through the soul, but the conditioning, beliefs, and values on the surface of the soul do inhibit it. If it was possible for you to see a soul, when you first look at it with all this conditioning, it has changed from its pure nature of luminosity to its impure nature because of the beliefs to more opaque or even dull and even potentially somewhat darker. These are all because of the conditioning on the outside of the soul, which it believes to be true. So the qualities of spirit find it very difficult to pass purely through and then out of the soul. So how does this affect your progress and your development? Well, the messages are coming to you. They have to come to you because you are unified as one. So the messages of deceased relatives, of this style of communication, the need to talk, to express messages, to heal, to remind others of their true self. These messages are always being sent. Prayers are always answered. So you can see, I hope, if I have explained this sufficiently clearly, that the messages comes in one side but has trouble leaving or being understood because of conditioning and problems which the soul has inherited. So part of your development on your journey home to realize yourself as the whole of spirit is to work through and resolve some of these false beliefs that you have gained. A very obvious one, maybe I should look like this, or I should achieve that. So by looking clearly at each of these conditioned beliefs, you can find out whether they are true or not. Am I only lovable when my body looks this way, for example? And by seeing them as false beliefs, they can begin to soften and be removed from the surface of the soul. And the more of this work you do, the more of your original luminosity becomes prevalent. So you begin to shine. And this is what's meant by, or depicted by, much of the light around man, and particularly the light painted in pictures around saints and deities. You would also notice that anyone doing this work will have a certain glow and feeling around them, if you are perceptive enough. And this is why it is called enlightenment. You are not gaining light, you are revealing light. Now, let's change that to development of, let us call it healing mediumship, trance mediumship, or anything else. The messages are being given to you. The expression of them can be the difficult part. If this is true for you, or you've reached a stage in your development where you have plateaued, it is not that you will need more classes or more skills. You may need more support, but your first look should be to see what is blocking you. What beliefs have I got which are limiting my expression? So you may find there are people who are very rigid on what they believe and the way life should be, and have trouble being pliable to life. And they develop a harder crust on the outside. A crust that mediumship, for example, must work in this, then that, then this, for it to work correctly. These people will learn that skill, but will go no further. So how pliable are you to your life? How much nearer to your true nature of your soul are you? The soul is meant to be pliable. It is not meant to be rigid and fixed. So by surrendering, you are improving your pliability, your reconnection to your true nature. By trusting rather than controlling, you are softening your soul, removing the external blockages. By willing to be open, talking about maybe your problems or what you feel, believe, or see, and being willing to listen to the answer. By being humble. Not by being fundamental or dogmatic. listening to others' opinions and accepting those opinions. By willing to be or do something different. By removing the conformity of life, the regularity, the need for structure and order. By being open enough to express the emotions that you have, i.e., having an open heart. Now, all of these examples, and there are more, but all of these are removing the inflexibility to allow the flexibility. Some people think, either on a spiritual path or a path of mediumistic work, that they should not surrender because they may lose their identity. But if you come to your truth, it is the loss of identity that we want, the loss of individuality is where you are going. So your flexibility, your ability to work in many ways, and this is why the phrase which is repeated so often, to let spirit do the work, means become flexible once more. So if you have reached a plateau, you have reached a stage where nothing more appears to be happening, maybe offer yourself a service to another in your daily life. Give with an open heart. That is but one way to be more flexible, to let the influences on the inside come out to the outside. Being of service, having an open heart to look at your conditioned beliefs, break your habits, will all help. Meditation. Meditation is the soothing of the waves on the surface of the ocean to allow the water to be clear. This regains you control of your mental state. It means the waves of the wind, or the wind-created waves, will have less and less effect on the water. Now, meditation, as I have mentioned before, is rather like having a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You add 2 drops in But after a while, one drop will come out. So it takes constant practice. It's not an overnight thing. You see, your soul is meant to be pliable. It is like water that is within a container. It will take the shape of the container, no matter what the shape. And as soon as that container is removed, the water will go to its natural state. Now, you could say that this is death, your bodily death. When your soul leaves you, it will return to its natural state. If you are not careful, you will make your soul like putty. And here the putty will take any shape. But once that container is removed, it takes a long time for that putty to go back to its original shape. So the more inflexible you are, the nearer to putty you are. So I ask you all as a challenge to you, should you so wish, and that challenge is for 1 week, I would hope for 1 month, and I would really enjoy if you carried it on longer than that. But for 1 week, each day, do something different. Maybe you go to work a different way, you cook something you've never cooked, you speak to somebody that you haven't spoken to. You may take a hobby or a book that is different for you. You may choose to eat breakfast in a cafe rather than at home. You may walk of an evening and not of a morning. There are many, many different examples. So each day, do something different. It is simple practice that reduces the conformity to life's routine. It gives you variety, it gives you choice, it opens your eyes to a different view. And little by little, you'll begin to feel a little more flexible. It will be tempting to go back to conformity, to the comfort of habit. It will be tempting for you to do what you did because it is easy. Meditate to regain control of your mind. Listen internally to your speech. By listening to your inner speech, the speech that nobody hears but you, by listening to this, discover if you are talking the truth to yourself or not. Or is it just wild, unsubstantiated rumor or beliefs? All of these are not difficult. They are simple. And with each step, you will find that your life becomes more and more joyous. The simple act of awareness will take you back to your nature also, as this regains the control of the mind to see the simple things. So with all of these examples, you may be inspired to say, do, or go. By listening to that inner voice that advises you and says, let us go this way, or let us undertake this activity, means that you are listening to your truth. It is very gentle. By listening to your truth, then the external world becomes second. Those people which are not following a spiritual path are listening to the physical world, not to the spiritual world. So any of you which are undertaking any form of spiritual development, you will find with time that the external world gives you less and less enjoyment. And your internal world, or your connection to spirit, gives you more and more enjoyment. This is why when you do a path of any type of spiritual work, once you have set that habitual action, it can become described as being like a drug. And when you stop or cease for a period of time, a few drops of water have left the bucket, and few have been added into the bucket. So I am sure all of you that listen to this will understand that after a period of time of non-spiritual work, there is a craving to return. But if you do not follow that craving, eventually your bucket will be empty and your sight and sound will be to the external world. This is the path that everybody must take. To dust the surface, to reveal the light. It has been described as spiritual path as being like a stone statue with light shining on the inside through any cracks that are formed. And eventually bits of the stone fall away, of course. I've used this example before. This is the revealing of your true self. The stone is the inflexibility, the rigid principles that my religion is better than your religion. I know, you do not. Remove the stone that covers you all and reveal the light that you have. And let all of spirit shine through you. And become clear and luminous, not rigid, dark, inflexible. And the light that you are meant to be will be the most visible aspect of you. We have said before, when we look at you, we see your light, we see your vibration. We do not see your ego. If you follow that belief with the analogies I have given, it'll make perfect sense. We see you as you are, not as you believe you are. So hence you cannot lie to us. But you can lie to yourself. If you're aware of your internal speech, it will surprise you how much untruth you say internally to yourself. So in our talk next week, we will continue this slightly, and we'll look at sin. And its truth or fallacy. So unless there are any questions now, I will withdraw until next week. It is your choice if you practice the given exercises or not. It is of no concern to me. Would anybody like to ask anything regarding this conversation?
I don't see any questions today, Ignatius. Thank you for the opportunity.
So next week we will talk about sin. And till then, I wish you all a light and bright day.